Alrighty, welcome everyone to the Un Billón Mindset podcast. I'm your host Marisol Uribe, and today I have a very special guest on the show. He has influenced me in several ways, family-wise, relationship-wise, business-wise, and I'm excited to have him. So I'm introducing a man who's a Mexican-American, multi-millionaire, very hardworking, and he has made six yearly events, two big events every year, available for you all entrepreneurs, small business owners, entrepreneur, whoever is just looking to excel in life. So, introducing Albert Preciado. Albert, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, thank you for having me, Marisol. I'm really, I'm a big fan of you, and I like everything you're doing. I like that you're a hard worker, and that no matter what, like one thing that I know that I like about you the most is that you never stop, you never quit, no matter what happens, no matter ups and downs or mistakes that you could make, because everybody makes mistakes. You always keep your head up. You never quit. You're a fighter, like me, like my dad. Like my dad always reminds me, like never quit, always keep going forward.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that introduction. You know, starting off, can you share about your journey to becoming a successful entrepreneur slash investor, not only in real estate, but, into your people as a mentor to many? What were the key milestones and challenges along the way?
Well, I never knew anything about business, like how to start a business. I just winged it. So winging it is not the best way to do it. The biggest mistake I made when I started was not getting a mentor sooner. And I think that when you're very young and you're a man and you have your ego and you're an alpha, like when you're 21, 22, and you start making good money, you forget where you come from, and all of a sudden you think you're too smart to learn from people older than you, more experienced than you, and you just let the ego take over. And that happened to me when I was like 22, 21. I started making money too young, too soon, and I did what I think most youngsters do. Like I spent it. I was partying. I made a lot of mistakes, and I was in mortgage. And then I ended up losing everything in 2008. So that was my one of my biggest lessons in life, that I lost everything. But one thing that I did was what we talked about in the beginning. I didn't quit. I'm not a quitter, because I believe that when you quit one time, you quit for life. You're always going to quit when times get hard. So you can't ever allow yourselves to quit. And when I lost everything in 2008, I said to myself, well, I'm never going to let this happen to me again, and I'm not going to quit. So I stayed in the mortgage industry when the majority of people in mortgage got out of it. And I slept in my car for 2 months. So I used to sleep in my car, my Ford Explorer. I used to go just park it and pull over in any area and sleep. And I would wake up, go to the gym, work out, shower, and I would work from Starbucks with my, because I have my laptop and my iPhone were the only things I kept. I had the older iPhone back then in 2008, but I had my phone and my laptop, and that's what I did. I just worked from Starbucks. I met with clients at coffee shops and their homes, and in 2 months I was able to get out of that homeless stage, and then just everything started getting better and better. But I started surrounding myself in better environments.
Speaking of environments, Albert is the founder of Driven Events. And let me tell you guys, the first event that I went to, I met Albert because of YouTube. I found a video where you were interviewing Eli and Mike, and they were talking about their story and their struggles with being a minority within a minority group. And, this couple has endured a lot similar to you, and you have grown with them. They have come along with you on this journey. And so from there, I followed you on Instagram, and from the beginning, I had so much respect for you. So let me tell you guys about Driven. Albert's the founder of Driven, and my first event was Driven 5. And let me tell you, I had the utmost respect for him and his family. And it took me a while to warm up to this guy, to even say hi, to even take a picture. and have a full on conversation with him. So it just goes to show everyone listening, watching, that the person that you are meant to become, it's almost like you shed old skin. You have to shed old skin like all the time so that you can become who you're meant to be. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Albert, in your life experience? How have you shed old skin to become the Albert you are today?
I look at myself as an example to others. So I think what made me really strong was in the beginning, when I was busing to go to elementary school, because I used to live in Echo Park, but it was like the Echo Park right next to LA, like where there's like a lake where people used to get killed, and they threw them in the lake. MacArthur Park, and I don't know if you know the area here in LA, but I was in a bad area. I had a lot of shootings, drug dealing. So my mom didn't want me to go to school locally because she didn't want me to become a gangster. So she buzzed me to Granada Hills to go to school. When I was 6, I was buzzing it, and I would take the yellow school bus, and I would get dropped off. I would have to wake up like at 4:30 in the morning to take a shower, get ready, and be at the bus stop like by 5:30. And then I would take the bus. And I remember the first time I took the bus, my first ride, I got put into a headlock by bigger kids, and I was crying the whole time. I was scared because I had never been used to being apart from my mom and my dad. And Hispanic families are very overprotective. So I went from being super protected to all of a sudden by myself on the school bus, getting on a headlock, crying because I missed my mom and my dad. And when I got to school, I don't know how we all missed that, but they sent me to a area where 99% of the people were white and only English was spoken. So I get there and I'm lost.
Culture.
So I was either gonna die or I was gonna fight. And I always remembered my dad. He said, "Don't quit, never quit, and work hard." So at that point, I had no choice but to fight. And getting put on a headlock, I get to that school. Everybody is yellow. I never seen yellow people. I've never seen, like, I used to watch Bart Simpson, like The
Yeah.
Simpsons, and that's the only place that I saw a yellow person with spiky hair. And when I got there, everybody looked like Bart Simpson, and I'm like, where am I? And I didn't understand English, right? So when I went there, they put me in special ed class because they figured he's special ed, and then they realized, well, he just doesn't understand English. So then they transferred me to ESL class, and then it took me a little bit to learn English, but I learned English little by little, and then I had a horrible accent, and I was called wetback, and they were telling me go back to Mexico, and it was like that from elementary school. Then I went to middle school, then high school, and it was a struggle. But when I got out of high school, and I didn't graduate on stage because I had a 1.8 GPA, so they just mailed me my diploma. And when I got out of high school, I promised myself I'm gonna change all the things that I don't like about myself because I was very insecure, most insecure person, and I was beaten up the whole time from the first grade all the way to 12th, and I was super skinny, bony. I had a bunch of pimples, and it was just bad. So I was really really insecure, and I couldn't get laid if my life depended on it. Like no girl, like I used to look at all the hotties, and the popular kids would get them, and I couldn't get any girls, and I was just the most insecure person you could imagine. And I promised myself I'm gonna change this, and that's when after high school I started working on myself. How can I get stronger? How can I get more confidence? How can I get smarter? So I started reading a lot of books, and that's when my whole journey of self improvement started.
Amazing. Yeah. Growing up, I saw bullying a lot. I saw bullying um, to my older brother. He passed away last September, um, and he was diagnosed with autism, and I felt as though I had to protect him, which in the beginning of my life I didn't understand it. going through elementary, I I had that disconnect as to how come an older figure doesn't protect me? How come it had to be the other way around? So there's a lot of examples. You, the listener right now, you could think of a bullying situation because of pimples, because of your physique, because of the way you walk, if you have or don't have tattoos. It's it's
Yeah.
it's a very judgmental society that we've come to live in. So, what would you tell your children today to not be a victim of bullying? How are you equipping them with these mental tools to stay in their own lane and really continue to excel?
We raise our girls. We spend a lot of time with them. Not as much as we want to, but when we do, we communicate with them, and we bring them to the office with us, and they take turns sometimes, and we teach them good core values. That that's one thing that I got from my mother. She always told me always be honest, be ethical, treat people with respect, never let anybody disrespect you, never let anybody bully you. So we implement those things to our daughters. So for example, a lot of people like to say it's be careful. So they'll tell their kids, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. So like I banned be careful from my house. So I tell Italia and Berlin, don't be careful. And he's like, oh, my teacher told me to be careful. I'm like, you got to tell your teacher not to say that, because don't you're not supposed to be careful. We are not careful. The Preciados are dangerous. We're not careful. We're dangerous. So there's nothing to be careful of, and because then you teach your kids to be careful, don't do this, don't touch that, don't talk to strangers. So our kids, we are treating them like adults, and we are showing them how to be entrepreneurs, and also how to have good core values, be ethical, have a good attitude, work hard, have integrity, be loyal, and just like you are like that, never let anybody disrespect you. Never let anybody look nobody puts a hand on you. Only mommy, and that's it. And so we are we communicate with them very well, and they're very very smart. And we also we got him a teacher, a private teacher that comes to the house, and we're very very selective with the things we want to teach our kids. But they're very smart, and we're really proud of them.
That's amazing. And I want to get into the COVID story. The fact that you guys have taken upon yourselves the autonomy, the freedom to select your healthcare decisions, not influenced by medical providers or the government, that sort of thing. Can we talk a little bit about that and how you had your experience in a commercial flight, and that's kind of how you said never again?
Yeah. Well, 3 years ago, they we were on a flight, and they were just treating us like they were bullying us, and we don't take bullying. And I was in a position where I couldn't do anything, because they said, if you don't put your mask on, we are going to get you out of this plane, and we needed to get back home. And so if we got out of that flight, we were going to have to get another flight, and it was going to be the same thing. And there wasn't any other flight, and I needed to get back home. And what really upset me was when they were forcing my daughter, that was 2, to put on her mask. And then so my daughter, she was like, my daughter was like, it's okay, daddy, it's okay, daddy.
Do it.
I'll pretend. And so she
Yeah.
did that. And then from there on, I said, never again am I gonna deal with this, because I'm not gonna let. And first of all, like I don't believe in COVID. I know I believe it's like just like a cold, and also we don't believe in vaccines. So we don't vaccinate our kids. A lot of kids, they get like 14, 15, 20 vaccines when they're very, very little. And so we chose not to vaccinate our kids. None of our kids have any vaccines. They're not vaccinated. And then, so that's why they can't go to school. So that's why we got him a private teacher to come to teach him. And then that's why we started flying also, private, because I said, I'm not going to put my family in this position again. I'm not. And that's why we also started doing the events back then. We didn't stop, the driven events. We continued because when COVID happened, they shut down all the gathering of people, the big gatherings, the events, they shut them down. So what I did is I told Sil, me and Sil, we started renting like mansions, like ranches and things like that. And we started doing COVID outside, outdoors. So we did it outdoors, and we never stopped. We had driven 4, driven 3, driven 4, and the boot camp, we had it outdoors, and we just didn't stop. And also when they said everybody has to go home, no going to the office, we just continued going to the office. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong for some people, but I said, you know what? If I allow this, we're gonna go out of business. And if I fight it, I might get in trouble. I might get sued. But I'd rather work, fight, and have the money just in case I get sued. I'm going to pay for the lawsuit, but I'm going to stay alive and I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to stay in the game. I'm not going to just depend on, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing and go home and hide. So that's just my mentality. And that's why we did that. And that's why I decided we're just going to fly private from here on, because I'm never going to allow somebody to bully me and my daughter to put on a mask. And from there on, we started flying private, and we weren't ready to fly private because it's expensive. But every time I commit to something big before I'm ready for it, it forces me to be ready for that and more. So I think that's a big lesson.
That's a huge lesson. And for those listening, definitely, don't hate on his medical decisions here for him or his family. And if you're a medical provider, definitely consider what I have done, educating people to prevent the onset of any disease, of any illness before it even occurs. A lot of us wait until the last minute to take a medicine or a vitamin. And my thinking is, well, let's prevent it, do something about it right now, be proactive versus reactive so that you don't end up in that likelihood of getting admitted to the hospital. Or furthermore, if you do, hopefully it's nothing and you could leave that same day. So there's a time and a place for medication, for emergency interventions, but right away when this rolled out, I know a lot of medical providers could say the same, do your research, right? Just because someone is telling you something doesn't mean that it's true. Definitely keep studying if you're new to the whole rationale behind anti-vax. Just look into every vaccine and also question perhaps not letting your kid have so many in one visit. Perhaps introduce spacing it out. So I'm glad we touched the topic. As a medical professional, it's something I'm very interested in, and it's something I continue to research about on several platforms, such as like Rumble or Twitter now that's uncensored. I really appreciate that. So continue, everybody, to read peer-reviewed articles or get with professionals like myself who is curious about kind of going against mainstream narratives. So that being said, we have about 10 more minutes, Albert. I know you're a busy guy. So I want to ask, could you talk about any particular strategies or approaches you've implemented besides getting mentors to achieve your financial goals?
Well, right now we are in a in an economy where a lot of people are being hurt. And one main thing, I'm in real estate. I have a real estate company, and I have a mortgage company and an escrow company. And and I have the driven enterprises, right? But right now, data, because I like to look at data. So the best strategy, the best way to create your strategy is to look at data. Instead of paying attention or listening to X, Y, or Z, look at the data. So, for example, last year, 5.9 million homes were sold. And this year, only 4.1 million homes are going to be sold. So that's over 30% that has dropped in homes being sold. Why? Well, it's very easy. Rates are high. They're high. They're like double of what they used to be, sometimes triple, because people refinance in 2021 got like a 2.5%, 3% rate. Now, if you sell your home, now you got to buy something that is 7% or 6.5%. So it doesn't really make sense. And also, properties have been going down in value. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then the market is just like this. Like it's very uncertain. So it's a very, very tough time to close deals. If you're a realtor or a loan officer that was used to the 2021 times when rates were all time low and then property values were going up like crazy. So you got to look at the data. Now, what does that mean? There's 30% less homes being sold this year than last year. But also, I see it as opportunity because also data, 60,000 realtors got out of the business so far year to date. So you have 60,000 less realtors that are working right now that quit. That means that every 3 minutes, a realtor quits. So what does that tell you? There's less, but there's also a lot less competition. So it's a huge opportunity to take over. Now, strategy. Right now, the old ways of doing business, like the whole one-on-one, meeting people face to face and going out and looking for people, shaking hands. Of course, you should still be doing that. However, the strategy right now has to be different. If you're in, whether you're in real estate, because real estate affects every other industry. So real estate affects ADU, solar, it affects a lot of other things. It affects everything, stocks. So you got to think about like, okay, well, what's going to work right now? What used to work before is not going to work right now. So our strategy is you got to become known. You got to become loud. You got to get as much attention as you possibly can because you're going to be limited. There's less homes being sold. There's less agents. There's less people interested in buying or selling. There's less people wanting to spend money. 2021, let's forget about real estate. A lot of people got SBA loans of $1 million, of 500,000, of 300,000. People were forgiven. They were forgiving their payments for mortgages, for rent. They were getting checks for this, for that. They were getting all sorts of credits. Everything was easy for everybody in 2021. That was for amateurs. So what's going on right now? This year is a huge opportunity to win. Now, you can't do business the same way you did business 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So the new way of doing business is using technology, being on social media, and social media is free. And so right now, if you want to make noise and be known, you got to be omnipresent. So you got to be all over social media. You got to have your podcast. You got to be on Facebook. You got to be on TikTok. You got to be on Twitter. You got to be on LinkedIn. You got to be on Instagram. You got to be everywhere, because it's not, people are not going to buy right now from who they know. I mean, people are not going to buy right now from the best or from the most experienced. People are going to buy from who they know. So it's very, very important more than ever to be known, because if you just rely on being knowledgeable, it's not enough. If you're just going to be good in sales, it's not enough. If you're just going to have the right mindset, it's not enough. If you're going to have the right attitude, it's not enough. You have to have all of them. You have to be an all-star in order to stand out right now. And if you do, then you're going to take over your space, your industry, and then times will get easier. But the lesson learned here for a lot of people is you need it to be liquid. So a big lesson for people, because another recession is going to come in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I don't know, but it is going to happen again. But we're also going to have great times. And when these great times happen, build your business and sell it, or stack a lot of cash so that when the recession hits again, you have a lot of cash to take advantage of all the opportunities. Because right now, we have so many opportunities, so many people reaching out, and it's because we build a brand. You build your personal brand, and if you do that, then you're just going to have no competition, Marisol. So I'm really excited right now over these times. And I'll throw in something really quick. Data. The way I measure our companies is I was looking at the numbers. The first 12 weeks of this year versus the last 12 weeks, meaning we're like on week 25 of the year. So we're like halfway into the year right now. And if you compare the first 12 weeks versus the last 12 weeks, we've doubled in revenue and payouts. So we paid out more commissions, double the commissions, and the revenue for the company is double than what it was the first 12 weeks versus the last 12 weeks. So the first quarter, we doubled it the second quarter of this year. So we are like going like this when most companies in real estate and mortgage are going like that. So I'm looking at the data, and you know, there's I can go on and on with strategies, but we have something very well in place because another of our strategies is to focus on green people, brand new licensees, because they are coachable, and this is the normal to them. And a lot of people with experience, they have bad habits and they're used to the other times, the past times. And you need people that are willing to learn new things. And the biggest problem with people with experience is that they have to unlearn their old ways, because the old ways are not the new ways.
Albert Preciado, everyone, one of my mentors. I have a final question for you. It is, what does having an un billón mindset, $1 billion mindset, mean to you? And how are you committed to achieve it?
By helping the billion people, the billion mindset is all about people. If you focus on helping a billion people, you will be a billionaire times 100. You'll have all the wealth in the world, but the biggest mistake that people make is they focus on the money, not on the service. If you service and you help and you change a billion lives, then money's gonna come easy. Like me and Sil and our people here, we focus on helping people, on changing lives, on how can we make it better, how can we solve problems, and we work hard, we work a lot, and we don't see it as work. Like we live a vacation that we live a life that we don't need a vacation from. Our headquarters here, you've been to it. We have a gym, we have a bar, we have showers, we have our studio where we're in right now, and we have a happy place right here. And we just focus on how many more people can we help. And when you focus on that, money comes. You don't have to even focus on money. Just focus on helping people. And if you change a billion lives, you will have that $1 billion mindset.
I love it. Albert Preciado, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please share the show, like, subscribe, and follow Albert if you haven't already. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisol.
Un billón.